Welcome, y'all. My name is Travis, and today I'm going to walk you through some basic setups for OBS, specifically in the context of using it for Lego whatnot. Um, I think there's a vast misconception that you need to have a whole bunch of fancy gear to be able to do this, and that's definitely not the case. So today I'm going to show you just a real basic setup with probably things that you have laying around your house. And then I might do a second video about a little bit more advanced setup. But I'm just going to cover just the real basics of how to get something set up. I will say that I use all Apple products, and I think that in some ways makes it a little bit easier, but I can definitely say that there are ways to adapt this into a Windows environment. So this is literally all that you need in order to be able to do a whatnot stream. You need a laptop. You need, I use my phone, my iPhone. This is an iPhone 12 Pro. Not that it really matters which iPhone, but that's what I use. And then a cable to connect them. So since I have a 2019 MacBook Pro, I need to use a USB-C to Lightning cable. If you have an older Mac or another PC, you would need a Lightning to USB cable. This is a quick little shot of what a real basic setup could look like. I did add a extra stand from what I talked about before, but you don't need to buy a fancy stand to be able to do this. You can just use bricks to build yourself a little iPhone stand to hold at the right place or whatever. I mean, they're real cheap now. This one's a Joby stand, and I'll put all of the gear that I use for this stream in a list in the comments or in the info section. So if you want to know exactly what I use, you can check it out there. But you'll need to download the OBS software for your computer. It is an open source project, so there are all kinds of updates and things to it, but it is free, which is awesome. I will say that you get what you pay for, so there can be sometimes some glitches. So I don't usually update too often just to try and avoid any of the bugs. There is also a other plugin that you will need to download as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So you'll also need to download that. And if you're on a PC, like a Windows computer, you will need to download a additional driver to get your iPhone to show up in OBS. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But if you just search using an iPhone with OBS, you'll get all the answers that you need to do that. On your first time opening up OBS, you'll be probably prompted to allow some things to happen, like it to access your microphone, all those types of things. Just go ahead and allow all that. And then eventually you will get to a window that looks like this. Now, the cool thing about OBS is that it will always auto-open back to whatever you last set up. Now, there are ways to save profiles and scenes and all that. I'm not going to cover any of that, and I don't really use most of that, to be totally honest. I usually just use the exact same thing every time. So whenever I reopen OBS, it just comes right back up to all the settings and all the things from my last stream. Now, I do have to sometimes reconnect a couple things, but I'll show you how to do that in this video. So sometimes you will have to reconnect devices on your next startup, but it's all the same type of process. And once it's all set up, it's really easy to just reconnect or refine those devices, and then you're good to go. So the one thing that is a little bit odd and will catch people off like guard is that the stream that you will see, or the output that you will see in OBS, is actually way more screen than you will see on Whatnot. And that's because Whatnot's designed to be on a phone, and OBS is kind of designed to output to like a full size screen, like a YouTube or whatever. And so the first thing that I always do when I'm setting up a new scene is that I set up my iPhone and capture the screen size from my iPhone so that I kind of have an idea of what the actual visible area is that's going to Whatnot. So that's the first thing I'm going to show you how to do. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to this middle section, click on the plus sign, and select video capture device. You can name it. I usually name it iPhone or something useful, and then click OK. And then you get this pop-down menu. You'll need to select iPhone, which mine's named Travis's iPhone. Leave all that, and you'll see it instantly pop up like that. And then click OK. And then you'll have to resize it. So this is where you're getting the correct screen size to show. Now this will show everything that's on your screen. So if I was on my home screen, you would actually see my full home screen. And I'll talk about the app that I use in a minute to do this. But so you want to first get it centered, and you can see the pixels on each side, and you can kind of confirm that those are indeed centered. It will kind of snap into place, and you'll see that. That's why I'm kind of scrolling around to get it to snap. And you'll see it kind of hit and lock. And like I said, this is the full screen of my iPhone. So if I were to show my home screen, you would then see my iPhone screen. So I use an app called Overviewer, and I will link that in the bottom as well. And what that basically does is it holds my iPhone's camera open and lets me access a couple different features of the iPhone camera, such as switching between the different cameras. So this is an iPhone 12, so it has the 0.5 degree, the 1-time, and then the 2-time camera, and I have access to all that. I can turn on the flash if I need to. So it gives you all those options so that you can kind of use it as that. When I'm doing single figs, I usually use the 2-time zoom, and then if I'm doing like a pick board or whatever, I either use the 1/2 or the 1x zoom. It all just kind of depends on what you have set up for your desk. The other thing to keep in mind of using an iPhone rather than an actual camera is that there is a fixed focal point, and you'll have to kind of find that point for each of those lenses. So like the focal point for the 2 is a little bit further out than it is for 1, and you'll see it because the image will be kind of in focus but not quite in focus, and then as soon as you move that fig a little bit or move the phone back and forth a little bit, it will instantly lock in. The other thing to keep in mind is when you take that fig away is that it will refocus on the background, and then when you put the fig back, it'll refocus on whatever is in its near field. So it just kind of takes a little bit of playing around with some distances to kind of get that focus that you want. Now, that's a huge benefit over having to actually manually focus like a regular camera. So there are some definite benefits to using something that does have autofocus. For the purposes of this video and using the things that you probably already have, I'm going to show you how to use the built-in audio functions of your laptop. So we're going to use the built-in mic and the built-in headphone output. But one of the quick ways to upgrade your setup is to add a audio interface, which I will do a separate video about. So for today, we're going to use the built-in microphone in the laptop, which is hit or miss quality depending on the laptop. This mic is okay in the Macs. But it's definitely not the best because it'll pick up a lot of the surrounding sounds. So like if your dog walks through, you're going to hear your dog walk through, or whatever the case might actually be. So that is one kind of drawback to using the laptop microphone. But again, it's something that you got already there, and you don't have to go out and get another piece of gear until you're ready or until you've made some money on whatnot. So just like before, we're going to go down and hit the plus button. We're going to go to audio input capture, and I usually name it microphone. Click OK. In the device, you're going to select the MacBook Pro microphone or whatever your laptop microphone is, and click OK, and it's ready to go. You'll see the meter bouncing back and forth as soon as you got it hooked up. All good. I mute the iPhone even though there's no way for it to really pick up because it doesn't like to use multiple things. So like I'm already outputting on video, so it doesn't also like to take a audio signal across as well, but you can do it. Again, we're trying to keep this as simple as possible, so I choose to use the laptop microphone. The next little bit is probably the biggest advantage to using OBS for whatnot, and that is getting music into your stream. So using OBS, you can actually pipe high quality music directly into your stream rather than it just being played in the room and your phone mic picking it up and it being hit or miss quality and hit or miss balance. So I do this the way that I'm going to show you. There are a couple other ways to do this. However, this is the way that I found the most successful. And I also do it this way because in my own streams, I actually show the little clip of what's actually playing, which I'm not going to show you how to do right in this stream, but it's definitely pretty easy to do once you've already set it up this way. So I use iTunes, so I'm going to first make sure that iTunes is open and I have music playing, just so I know that it's functioning before I go to add it into OBS. And then I'm going to go into OBS and I'm going to click add, just like we have done everything else. I'm going to do Mac OS screen capture. I'm going to name this music, click OK. And then it's going to show a bunch of screens and you're going to select application capture, make sure the display is selected, and then select the app, which in my case is called music. And I turn off show cursor, and this captures my entire screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just minimize the screen size and just kind of drag it off into the regions of the screen that you're not even going to see on Whatnot. Now, what I do in my own streams is I actually will clip just a little bit of that screen and show it on my screen, and then that way you can see what's actually playing. But then you can drag the level there, and it will lower the volume level that's going to the stream, or turn it up if you need to, or whatever the case might actually be there. And it lets you mix the voice and the audio together so that you get a nice even balance. One of the other huge advantages to using OBS and Whatnot is that you can do text overlay or even screen overlay, but text overlay especially, to add just a little bit of extra things, like tell people to check out your buy it now, what you're doing, like if you're going to pick two, pick one, whatever, you can overlay that right over the image of your video. And so just like everything else, we're going to click on that plus button down on the bottom. We're going to select that text. And then I'm gonna name it because you can have multiple text things. So I'm gonna name this "Buy It Now" because that's what I'm gonna use it to advertise. You can have multiple text overlays. So you type in the text what you want. I'm really bad at spelling, so ignore the couple spelling errors as we go here. So you type in whatever you want, and it's gonna bleed over, and you're gonna fix all that later. So that doesn't really super matter. You normally find a font size that kind of works. It doesn't actively show. There's a couple other options here. Again, you can play around with all of this. I just did this real quick and dirty. So you just click and drag it across the top. I usually like to put it up at the top where it's already black. And I'm going to change the size again here so that's way too small. So you'll kind of get used to sorting out the size thing, and you can actually also drag and stretch it right in stream if you want as well, but it's kind of nice to just kind of do it as you're going. I usually center it, but it's not super important because I'm going to make it actually scroll. So you're going to choose filters, choose the scroll option, and then you can change the speed of it. So obviously you probably want it to be pretty slow so people can actually read it. If you drag it to the left, it'll actually make it go backwards, which no one wants. You don't have to check any of those other boxes except for make sure loop is selected. And then the other thing is that you'll need to make it so that there's spaces at the end of the text. Okay, so you will need to save this. I don't know why I kept clicking cancel, but you need to click save, and then add a couple of spaces afterwards so that it's not smushed right up against each other, because it just auto loops and it just puts it right back to back. So if you wanted to add more, you could add another one by clicking the plus sign and doing the exact same thing over again. Or if that's all you want, you can do that as well. Just leave it there. So this last little step is going to show you a couple of settings that you need to make sure you have set up so that you can properly stream into Google Chrome into Whatnot. You will also need to download some sort of virtual audio cable. I use a plugin called VB Cables, and again, I will put that at the bottom. And that's the one that I use. It's super simple. It's kind of brainless. It just works. And so that's the one that I use. You also need to download that audio monitoring plugin from OBS for OBS that I also have linked at the bottom. And that's how you'll be able to hear, which I'll show you in just 1 second. One of the kind of quirky things about using OBS and the way it interfaces with Whatnot is that you are not the audio you are sending is not the actual main audio output from OBS. You're actually sending what is the monitoring channel to OBS to actually feed your signal in. So that's why you have to go through these couple extra steps to be sure that you are sending audio into Whatnot. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the monitoring device. So we're going to click on the plus, audio output capture, and I usually name it output mon, and then click OK. And then this is the device that you're going to choose to listen to, which is that VB cable, which we're going to set up in a minute. And then you're going to go to filters, add the plus sign, go to audio monitor, and then this is where you're going to select where you're going to hear it. So I selected my external headphones and clicked close. And then that's how you're going to hear through your headphones. Then you're going to do a couple of setting things to set up the output. So there's tons of different things, and this is where I always mess up because I always want to go to one of these other things, and you actually need to go to the audio tab. So all the rest of these settings defaults are fine, but you're going to want to go to audio and scroll down to where it says advanced monitoring device and click VB cables, click apply, and click OK. This is where you're going to be able to select what is actually being outputted. So the first one, which is the iPhone, doesn't really matter, which is why I went back and changed it. But the other two, you want to be monitor and output. And then you want to leave the output monitor alone and click close. And then as soon as you hit start virtual camera, you are ready to go. You might need to input a password like I did here, especially if it's your first time using OBS. I just updated, so that's why I needed to use it. And then you're ready to go to stream to Whatnot. At this point also, you should be able to mix down your levels. So if you put on your headphones, you should be able to hear the music and the microphone, and it should be an appropriate mix. One thing to keep in mind is that I usually set my default output on my computer to be something else, because if I don't, then I'm hearing double audio or double music rather than just once that's coming out of OBS. So if you have a double effect going on, it's probably because you're hearing both the actual output from the application and the OBS application. So I just selected to be one of my other devices in my house, or I have a couple other virtual cables installed, and just selected to be that. And that way I don't got to worry about it being doubled. One more OBS trick that I've started to use that really helps me is to use what's called studio mode. And this way you can make some changes to what's on the screen before people actually see it. And that way if you need to change kind of what you're doing, if you're changing from pick 1 to pick 2, or if you are swapping up some other text, that way you can preview it, make sure it's sized appropriately before people actually see it. So we're going to click on what's called studio mode, and you'll see both sides of these now are the same. And you move what's on the left. So I'm going to move from top to bottom and then click cut or fade. Fade will do a nice fade. Cut will do an instant thing. And then see, I can move around the left-hand side, get it all set. If I want to change sizes or spacing, click fade. And then what's on the right-hand side is what the viewers are actually seeing. So this is a great way that if you are just, if you need to change something text-wise, it's a great way to be able to do things without everyone watching you do it. So the rest of this is just like setting up any other normal Whatnot stream. So you'll set up, so I'm going to do a test show, so I'm just going to do test, check the time, choose the category, toys, Lego, the whole thing. You don't got to set up anything else. I usually click explicit content just because I sometimes swear and I just do it out of habit, and then click test mode. I always check to make sure it says test mode. Open up the stream, and then here you're going to click start stream. And then on the camera, you're going to choose OBS virtual camera. And then on the audio, you need to click on VB cable and send raw audio and click start. And then it'll show up. My screen's currently showing red because I had a little glitch when I was doing this. But you will actually see your image there exactly as people would see it. And then you are good to go. When you're done, I usually close the Whatnot stream first and then stop the virtual camera from OBS. But in the grand scheme of it, doesn't super matter. But as soon as you hit stop virtual camera, you're going to see a little error message on the Whatnot side. The one last tip that I would say, if you're having troubles with some things connecting or all that with OBS, is to just restart OBS. Go to OBS, quit, and just reopen up the program. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of a chance to think about itself. So that's it. It's really not as difficult as people make it. And once you have it set up once, it's really easy to reopen it and just reconnect things. You will probably have to click on them, and then where it says source, select the source, and just go through and check to make sure. But it should just kind of work every time, which is great. So I will definitely be doing some follow-up videos on how to do some more advanced features, or if y'all have questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll go back and do some more videos. Thanks, y'all.